Priča o Beogradu koju ćete imati priliku da čujete prepletena je sa ličnom i porodičnom pričom našeg sagovornika smeštenom u raznim gradovima sveta. Iako na prvi pogled izlaze iz običajenih okvira emisije, izvori i ishodište ovih pripovesti jesu upravo u našoj zemlji i prestonici.
My name is Vladimir Karađorđević. I am the son of Kraljević Andrej Karađorđević, who passed away in 1990 in the United States of America. I have one brother who's 1 year younger than me and one sister who's 2 years older than myself. Dimitrija is my brother, Lavinia is my sister. My mother is Her Royal Highness Princess Kira Milita of Leiningen from the Romanov family. I was born in England in 1964 and together with my parents and my brother and sister moved to Portugal in, I believe it was 1968. We lived in Portugal for a while until 1975. In the meantime, my mother and father divorced in 1973. And my father went on to his new life in the United States of America with Princess Eva Maria. And my mother, my brother and myself went back to London in 1975 because of a revolution in Portugal in 1974. In London, we were all educated in secondary school. I went to a very special school, which is wonderful. It's a Royal Naval School. And I was trained to join the British Royal Navy. I had a conflict of interest because my passion was flying, and to become a naval pilot in Britain is very, very difficult, rather than being an Air Force pilot or a commercial pilot. I went into the travel business and worked there for quite a long while and became versed in public relations, marketing and representation. I worked in the transport field for some time, then back in the travel business. Then I set up my own public relations firm. In between, I used to fly for a hobby, but when the war started in Bosnia, it was unfair to pay that sort of money to fly privately when you could buy medicines for the same amount, so I gave up flying. I finished my education in Britain, as I say, and went on to work in various fields. I met my wife in Germany in 1993, first of all, at a function organized by herself and Kolosarski Sestara. She was collecting medical aid for the Bosnian conflict, for the victims of that conflict. We fell out of contact for some time and met again in 1999. And I got married to her in 2000 in a civil wedding, and 2001 in a church wedding in London. Since 1991, I personally have made approximately 49 trips to Serbia. My wife, since the tragic death of Kraljević Tomislav, has been here with me now on 9 of those trips. We live together in Germany. As I say, I run my public relations business from there, and she runs her fashion business from there. We don't have much time, unfortunately, in our calendar to come home to Serbia. So every time we do, it's a full agenda, and we do what we can and bring our charity with us to do as much as we can. But we hope in the future we'll be able to do more on all fronts. And that's basically a little bit about who I am and where I am. The church wedding I referred to was a bit of a fiasco, and for me a bit of an uncomfortable position to be in. It was at a time I was learning about Serbian Orthodoxy and being a part of the Serbian Orthodox community. I was, I suppose, naive, and I was convinced, together with my wife, that after her baptism, we would then be married at Claridge's Hotel before a family meeting. In fact, a very important family meeting on the 20th of May, 2001. Prince Alexander and Princess Katerina organized this with the priests in London, but I have consequently learnt from our church that it was not the right thing to do. The tragedy is that it was our dream to be married, church marriage, in free Serbia, which ironically came after. We missed it by some time when 5th of October revolution took place. We didn't get back to Serbia in time to have a church wedding here. So it's something that we have to live with. It's something I apologized deeply to His Holiness, the Patriarch, about, because it's not within his belief of doing something like that. So, as I say, I feel sorry also for my wife, because Princess Brigita was expecting to perhaps bring something in that way back to Serbia, not to be better than anybody else or anything like that, but to try and bring some sort of color through the wedding back to Serbia, some sort of hope for the future, but it wasn't to be. So I'm very happy to be married now, and very happy to be married in a Serbian Orthodox fashion, but in the wrong place.
Ich bin ein Modedesigner und ich habe private Klienten in Deutschland, die Kostüme, Abendkleider, Cocktailkleider bei mir bestellen, und jedes Teil mache ich nur einmal. Mein Hobby ist die Malerei, aber wie gesagt, das ist nur ein Hobby, aber ich liebe beides. Wir haben uns 1993 kennengelernt. Ich habe damals humanitäre Hilfe gesammelt für Bosnien- und Kroatien-Konflikt durch eine Freundin, die war eine koloserbska sestara. Wir haben viele Dinge gesammelt, viele Hilfsmittel humanitärer Art. Und Princ Vladimir hat uns die Bescheinigung besorgt, über die Grenze zu kommen nach Serbien. Und am Ende einer Hilfssammlung war eine Party, und dort habe ich meinen Mann kennengelernt. Und wir haben uns verliebt auf den ersten Blick. Und dann haben wir uns aus den Augen verloren für ein paar Jahre und haben uns wieder getroffen, als der Kosovo-Krieg beendet war. Und ich wollte wieder humanitäre Hilfe sammeln. Und ich war damals am anderen Ende der Welt, in Hawaii. Und ich bin dann auf meinem Rückweg über Los Angeles nach London geflogen, und wir haben uns kurz auf dem Flughafen getroffen und wollten über unser Projekt sprechen, unser neues Projekt einer Hilfsleistung. Und dann haben wir uns wieder zum zweiten Mal ineinander verliebt. Und dann haben wir uns oft getroffen und haben unser Hilfsprojekt gemacht. Und dann, das war sehr erfolgreich. Wir haben eine große Veranstaltung gemacht im November 1999. Und dann haben wir uns verlobt und geheiratet in London. Und wir wollten keine große Hochzeitsfeier. Wir wollten eine ganz kleine, heimliche Hochzeit. Ja, weil es war eine schwere Zeit hier in Serbien. Und wir träumten davon, eines Tages unsere kirchliche Hochzeit in Serbien zu feiern. Also das erste Mal, als wir uns getroffen haben, habe ich nicht gewusst, dass mein Mann ein Prinz war. Weil ich wusste nicht, dass Jugoslawien einmal eine Monarchie hatte. Und später, als wir geheiratet haben, ich habe das gewusst, aber es hatte für mich nicht die Bedeutung. Natürlich war ich sehr stolz darauf. Als ich dann das erste Mal nach Serbien kam, das hatte einen sehr traurigen Anlass. Das war im Jahr 2000, als Prinz Tomislav gestorben ist und wir kamen zur Beerdigung. Wir hatten ein Tagesvisum für einen Tag und wir durften ein paar Stunden hier bleiben. Und wir kamen nach Topola und dann nach Oplenac und es waren Tausende von Leuten versammelt für diese Beerdigung. Und an diesem Tag habe ich erst begriffen, wen ich geheiratet habe. Und ich bin sehr stolz darauf, ein Mitglied der Karađorđević-Familie zu sein. An diesem Tag, auf der Beerdigung von Prinz Tomislav, habe ich beschlossen, den orthodoxen Glauben anzunehmen. Das war für mich. Und ich habe aber beschlossen, ich wollte nicht einfach getauft werden, ich wollte alles wissen. Und ich bin getauft worden 2001 und ich bin sehr glücklich, ein serbisch-orthodoxer Gläubiger zu sein. Ich liebe unseren Patriarchen Pavle. Er ist für mich der wichtigste Mann in unserer Kirche. Alle Bischöfe, die ich kennengelernt habe, sind besondere Menschen und wie auch die Priester. Ich bin sehr glücklich.
We started our charity, which is more than a charity, it's a foundation. We started it in 1999. We called it Mother and Child Relief Foundation, and we orientate our work mostly to the needs of hospitals, of mothers, children, of course, because of the name, but also we have a much broader platform, and that is to offer help as a foundation in constructing and reconstructing projects that will help the Serbian people on a long-term basis, not just immediate charity. We've worked with the hospitals in Požarevac, Valjevo, here in Belgrade. We're bringing a couple of professors over this weekend to see the oncology hospital and the plastic surgery hospital, and Mikey Detza, of course. And we've been heavily involved with some very, very large projects with our charity and foundation, and also some very small ones. We believe that every single need that we can actually cover is a very important element of what our foundation is about. So if a workman can't work because he's got no hammer, we will provide a hammer. If a hospital can't save patients because it's got no kidney machine, we will try and supply a dialysis machine for them. So we're very proud of what we do, but it's just a literal drop in a very large ocean of humanitarian necessity. We hope that we can continue to do what we can over the next years, and I really do hope that one day Serbia, I'm confident it will be, Serbia will be in a position to offer humanitarian help to other countries who have suffered the same consequences in the future that we have suffered over the last 15 years. When I first came to Belgrade in 1991 with Prince Tomislav, Kraljević Tomislav, we arrived at Surčin airport and light was already fading. And I remember coming out of a dark walkway into the hall that was absolutely filled to full extent. It was filled with Croats, Slovenes, Serbs, Belgrade, Novi Sad, all over then Yugoslavia. They were genuine monarchists who had come from then Yugoslavia, not the former Yugoslavia, then to come to see their royal family returning, as they did with Prince Alexander. It was amazing, absolutely amazing. Then I saw for myself the truth in Belgrade and the suffering that was going on under the economic situation. Then subsequent visits, I saw things going from bad to worse. I saw the poverty, I saw the unemployment, I saw the unbelievable cuts in pensions, rises in prices, and I also saw survival. This was not only confined to Belgrade, I must be honest. It was all over the former Yugoslavia where we were concerned. Today we see a different face. We see a much more positive face. We see smiles in the street. We see hope. We see eyes looking to the future. And I pray to God that this is not a facade, because the Serbian people have been cheated so many times out of a better future that I could not bear to see this happen one more time, where the Serbian people were yet again cheated out of a better future. So I hope. I'm confident, but I'm not convinced. Visually, Belgrade is beautiful. It's under a lot of stress, and it needs a lot of repairing, a lot of renovation, a lot of cleaning, but it's absolutely beautiful visually. I challenge anybody to say it's an ugly city. I don't think anybody, in all honesty, would be able to say that with their hand on their heart. I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's battered, it's been bombed, it's been raped, and it's been pillaged, and it's absolutely fantastic, and it's beautiful. When I first started coming to Belgrade in 1991, I didn't know anybody here. The first person and spiritual guidance that I came to love dearly was His Holiness Patriarch Pavle. He was the only man that I could trust, the only man I could take guidance from, both spiritual and moral. Then slowly, we came back time and time again, and over the first, shall we say, 20-25 trips, I started to get to know people on a regular basis, and started making friends. And now I'm very proud that we have a very small and solid group of very, very dear friends. And it's very, very upsetting, because as much as I would like to thank them and tell you who they are, I feel that they are in danger of being a part of the family arguments that are going on. Together with our friends, we don't have much of a private life like my wife and I in Germany. What we do is we visit as many different parts of Serbia as possible. We also visit as many different institutions here, either medical or study institutions, universities, schools. Private time is cut very, very short. When we get a chance, we sit in a cafe, kafana, or we sit at a restaurant and grab a bite to eat. But I wish there was more time than there is. But the problem is, because we feel that we are still in exile, certain members of the government previous have made it obvious that we are not as welcome as other members of the family here. So we don't have the ability to come and go, or come and stay, which would be preferable at the moment. hopefully in the future that will change. When that does, then we will have much more private time together with our friends and still be able to do the duties and commitments that we have chosen to undertake. If I was to identify one favorite place in Belgrade or in Serbia, it would be impossible. There are so many. We've made visits on, as I said, an official basis to so many institutions, so many faculties, so many companies, so many hospitals. So I cannot pinpoint just one single favorite place. I love visiting our churches. I think, again, it would be very difficult for me to identify a favorite church. Of course, Hram Sveti Sava is magnificent. It's absolutely beautiful. But so is Oplenac, for example. So is the churches that we visited in Rashka. We were at the church Alexander Nevsky for liturgy last Sunday, and I was very much taken by surprise. Wonderful. Oh, I cannot say in words how beautiful it is. That is also very, very special because of the connection between King Alexander and Tsar Nicholas II within that church, and of course being named after a Russian saint. It all makes sense at the end of the day, but you have to be there and actually see how everything comes together and how it affects us as the Karađorđević family and brings us into the fold of that church. So I was very, very happy after such a long time to be taken to this church and to finally see it for myself. The church for me is not only very important, it's vital. There's no overstatement there. I feel that the future of Serbia and other parts of Serbian Orthodoxy in the former Yugoslavia are very much dependent on the integration of various elements of our Serbian Orthodox Church and guidance of our Serbian Orthodox Church. I have an amazing privilege of being very dear friends with our Mufti and his son, the dear Imam of Belgrade, and I see there such a potential of us Serbian Orthodox and us Serbian Muslims working together for a better future. And I think this better future can be exported as example to various other places where the Serbian Orthodox community and Muslim communities, Catholic communities may be having some trouble in integrating. I don't profess to solve the Kosovo affair. That's impossible. That's going to take ages, and that's a different story. But there is a very, very big chance that, as I say, the Serbian Orthodox Church will guide any political future of this country by leading it spiritually. And I'm convinced of that, absolutely convinced of that. We've seen, unfortunately, that the politics in this country take the revolutionary role here and there and come to some good or no good or disaster, but the church has been solid throughout. And again, I refer to our beloved patriarch as being a very strong element of that. And I'm afraid he will have very, very proud of him and what he's done. We knew very little about our home, Serbia, then Yugoslavia, when we were living in Portugal with my mother and my father as children. We had references made to it by family, friends, and of course by my father, but it was more as an historical event marking, such as Vidovdan, referring to it, perhaps not explaining it. So it was not something that we were fully aware of in detail or entirety. We had a strange connection with the Serbian diaspora in Portugal because there weren't too many of them. There was a diplomatic corps, and that was about it. The major contacts with the diaspora were still in England, in Peterborough, in Derby, in London, Birmingham, and also to a smaller extent in Germany. But as children, I remember very well being taken, while we were still in England, being taken to certain events such as Slavas and Vidovdan. I didn't know what they were. I was only a small child at the time, to various communities of the diaspora within Great Britain. No, I cannot refer to any anecdotes or any examples of life in Serbia or Yugoslavia as it was then, referred to by my father. I remember stories about what Yugoslavia used to be like before the Second World War. That I heard from many people in the diaspora, and also from my father before he left. That was tragic because it wasn't until I was much older, some 20 years old perhaps, that I realized what it was all about in its full entirety. So that's basically that on the history of Serbia, and in particular the history of Belgrade while we were living abroad. Very limited, I'm afraid. While I was a child, we had some contact as children with other members of the Karađorđević family, but not on any large scale. I think, as I say, we were in Portugal, and the majority of the other members were either in the United States or in Switzerland and France and Great Britain. So we were seemingly isolated. Ironically, we had a lot of contact with my uncle, the King of Italy, Umberto, also with his sister, Queen Giovanna of Bulgaria. But with our own family, it was only when Prince Alexander, as a young man, would come and visit my father in Bir, in a part of Portugal, and when Prince Tomislav was there with Princess Margarita. These were the only times that we actually had contact with other members of the family, but relations were very good at that time. With the three brothers, King Peter, Kraljević Tomislav, and Kraljević Andrej, relations were always positive but not close. And it wasn't anything to do with dislikes. It was to do with the fact that they had all gone through massive amount of trauma. Their father, as you know, was assassinated, King Alexander, my grandfather, in Marseille in 1934. That's very difficult for a child to understand, comprehend, even for a child to accept at a later stage. Then came the Second World War, and then came the subsequent betrayal of the Serbian people by Great Britain and the United States of America when Yugoslavia was given into the hands of Tito, beginning in 1943, ending, as you know, in 1945. So the three brothers went through this tremendous stage of upheaval and being outrooted from their home, and they were izbeglica with a title, nothing more. They had to find a new life, they had to find a new format in which to operate and work. So, as I say, contact between all three of them was not seldom, it wasn't often either, but it was very static. I noticed that my father, when he spoke to my uncle King Peter, there would be a point at which they didn't have very much more to say because it was too painful to refer to the obvious. But apart from that, contact was friendly with the few times we saw the other members of the family. And this is why it's so shocking that all of us, without being martyrs, all of us have had a very, very difficult life. I refer to Princess Yelizaveta, I refer to Knez Alexander, Sin Pavle, I refer to myself from the Kraljevich Andrei branch, the Kraljevich Tomislav branch, and also Prince Alexander from from King Peter's branch. So it's very, very extraordinary why he's chosen to act in this extraordinary manner and act in some ways like a despot and oust the rest of the family from their legal entitlement and play structure. I remember my uncle King Peter very, very vividly, but seldomly. I only saw him 3 or 4 times when we were living in Portugal. Of course, I met him as a baby, as I was a baby, when we were living in London. I was very lucky to see him shortly before he went to America and subsequently died there. I feel privileged. He was a lovely man, very, very wonderful man. He fought tooth and nail for the Serbian people through the Second World War especially, and was betrayed desperately by the United States and Great Britain, which hurts me very, very much. Kraljevich Tomislav, my uncle, again, a wonderful man, a very strong-headed man. He again had ideals that he lived up to. He again fought for the rights of the Serbian people. He came, for me, much later. He came in the last war, for me personally, to shine through as a fighter for truth and justice. My father, unfortunately, I knew him when I was very young as my father. He left us after the divorce of my mother and lived in America. I met him for a very short time before he died, and I saw in him what my idea of a true prince in the Karađorđević family really represented. He died with the principles of a true prince. He fought for the rights, as the other 2 princes, King Peter, and Kraljevich Tomislav did. He was a wonderful man, a really wonderful man. Perhaps he wasn't such a good father, but that's something that we can all accept because of what he did for the Serbian people. But no, there's no nice stories, unfortunately. Their lives were really very, very upsetting. There were wonderful times amongst the bad, but as a general, they suffered tremendously with Tito's taking over of their country after the Second World War. We are now in a very, very serious situation. Unfortunately, the conflict within the family is extensive. It is literally the King Peter branch that is trying to eradicate the rights of the Kraljević Tomislav branch, Kraljević Andrej branch, and Knez Pavle branch. It's a systematic campaign that started many years ago, unfortunately, by the advisors to Prince Alexander. But now, unfortunately, it hurts me to say that he and his wife are very heavily involved in this negative campaign. It seems to me and many others that they are not beyond using lies, trickery, illegal activities to promote themselves and to try and get rid of any legal rights of the other members of the family. I am trying still to work towards a peaceful solution outside the courts, outside the realms of law. I don't know if I can do that. I'm trying to get the rest of the family to come together as a united front to challenge, not to fight dirty battles, but to challenge these illegal activities and claims by our cousin, Prince Alexander. If we can't do that, unfortunately, it will go to the international courts and it will be a messy battle. What I want to say is that I feel very, very sorry, and I must ask for forgiveness from our people here for doing this, but I have to do this because if I stand by and let these lies carry on, then I become a part of these lies, and I become a part of the lies that are being told to the Serbian people, and I can't do that. I thought the Karađorđević family was here to serve the Serbian people. Part of this service to the Serbian people is to be honest and to tell them the truth, not to lie. At the end of the day, the bricks, the mortar, the paintings, they don't matter. It's the principle of this. And I will fight legally for this principle. Here we are in Skadalja, in the middle of Belgrade. It's a wonderful place. Everybody knows it. It's very representative of a Belgrade that used to exist in the past and in itself exists now in this small area. I used to come here not so often, but a few times with Kraljević Tomislav. We're sitting now in Tri Šešira. Across the road, I remember, used to be Tri Jelena. There's some other very good restaurants and bars up and down. Markets at the end of the street, I remember that being very, very nice, except in the time of sanctions where you were paying 5 Deutschmarks for a bottle of Coca-Cola. That wasn't so nice for the Serbs. I remember the songs here that were being played at that time and still are now. A lot of them have different meanings to me now. As I say, they represent a time of new hope and new prosperity, or hope for prosperity. The older songs, of course, are the ones that I hang on to emotionally, like everyone else, I suppose, Tamo Daleko and so forth. We had some very, very tragic times here, some very good times here. Friends and people who we were here with, we've lost in the meantime, either in the wars or, as is in the case of Kraljević Tomislav, with cancer. But this is a very special place. I love it dearly, as so do many other people, both Serbs and foreigners. Moj srpski nije dobro, ali želim da kažem laku noć i puno hvala.